Hello, book friends. It's been a little while since I've sat down to record anything that wasn't maybe for the podcast. So we're going to warm myself up for this batch filming and we're going to do a little book tag. I found this book tag by watching Tracy's Nordic Light, which is a very soothing channel if you are looking for a very calming friend in the book space. I think Tracy's a good place to go. And this is an original tag by The Uncommon Reader, and it's called the Books and Art tag. So let's jump in to this really fun and interesting tag. Hello, book friends. It's Alyssa. Welcome back to the channel. Hello if you are new. I am here with a book tag. Like I said, we've already covered this, but I think this one's fun. And it took a little thinking and combines a couple things that I really enjoy, and that is paintings and books. And so there's 9 prompts, and we're gonna just run through them and get me like warmed up for recording, you know? I went to Pilates this morning. I'm feeling limber and sore. So let's jump into it with the first painting, and that is Wanderer Above the Sea and Fog by Caspar David Friedrich. This is currently on display at the Met, and I kind of regret not going and taking a peek at it in person, but beautiful, beautiful, stunning painting. And the book prompt that goes with this is a book that focuses on or explores solitude. Now, this is the only book I don't physically own. I don't know where I'm going to pop it up. So it took me a little bit to figure this out. And then it was like light bulb. I'm going to talk about The Lonely City, Adventures in Art and Being Alone by Olivia Lang, I think is how you say her name. I found this through Mauve ASMR, and I really enjoyed this. I read this last year, I think, or maybe it was last year. And this is a memoir. Olivia ends up in New York City for, I think, like a writing thing. And she's realizing how lonely it is in this sea of millions of people. And she explores that by looking at different artists who were very isolated and cut off from society in some way. The standout is probably Warhol. There's a lot on Warhol in this. There's Henry Darger and his hoarding, and David Wojnarowicz, AIDS activism. I'm saying some of these names wrong, but it's a really interesting collection of essays and thoughts and looks into different artists, the idea of being lonely in a sea of people. And I really enjoyed this collection, this memoir essay thing. Sometimes I don't know what to call these because it's a mix of essays. It's also a memoir. I remember her talking, I think she goes to the city for something specific, and then she ends up kind of being very alone. I don't know if like a roommate falls out. There's some reason why she ends up being like extra lonely. There's also a look at Hopper, and I think like the Hopper painting of just everybody at the diner at night. I mean, what an exercise in just like capturing isolation amongst others. But anyway, this is a really great collection. I think if you would like to explore art and loneliness and writing and all of that in one big clump, this is a good book. The second is Cherubs by Raphael. And we all know this one. And we probably know the one where they're smoking and drinking. I think I had that as a sticker because I thought it was really funny when I was, 15. So I picked, this is the other one I don't own because I listened to it. So I do have this on audiobook. And this is The Utterly Uninteresting and Unadventurous Tales of Fred the Vampire Accountant by Drew Hayes. These are just fun stories. These are just fun stories. If you like vampire stories, but you want something that's funny, it's not sexy, it's basically like an everyday guy happens to be a vampire, and he's an accountant, and his life is boring, but everybody else around him seems to expect this excitement, and it's just not. And so there's a lot of interesting and funny situations that arise out of that. I loved it. I had such a good time listening to this, and I kind of want to re-listen to it. I think there's more. I think the book is like 3 or 4 little novellas about this guy, and then I think there's more in this world of Fred the Vampire Accountant, and I never hear anybody talk about it because it's a silly little thing, and I thought it would just fit really well with this painting that we often parody like this. So one parody for another. Third prompt. And that is Moscow by Kandinsky, a book set in the future, sci-fi or dystopian. There's a lot to pick from, but I keep thinking about this since finishing Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents, Earthseed, all that. And that's Tochi Onobuchi's Goliath. I really enjoyed this. It's the 2050s and Earth has been emptied. All these people have moved into space, but there are some people left behind. Everybody who isn't like rich, basically. And those left behind salvage what they can from the collapsing infrastructure. As they eke out an existence, their neighborhoods are being cannibalized brick by brick. Their houses are sent to the colonies in space. What was once a home, now a quaint reminder for the colonists of the world that they wrecked. This weaves together narratives of a space dweller looking at New Haven, Connecticut as a chance to reconnect with his spiraling lover, a group of laborers attempting to renew the promises of Earth's crumbling cities, a journalist attempting to capture the violence of the streets, a marshal trying to solve a kidnapping. And these all blend into this really interesting discussion about race, class, gentrification, and who's allowed to be the hero in a story. I really enjoyed this. I think I need to go back and read it. Especially after reading Earthseed, it really made me think about this quite a lot. It has a lot of literary sci-fi elements. It's really beautifully written, I think. It talks a lot about like race and what happens to those that get left behind. And, we often have these sci-fis where everybody goes off into space, but not everyone can go to space. Like what happens? What happens to those people? And there's another book that now that I'm thinking about it, by Catherine M. Valenti. The Past is Red, maybe? I will put it up on the screen somewhere. But that one also would be like a really great book for this prompt and for this idea of what does Earth look like for those that are left behind that aren't privileged enough to leave. And as we're hearing about apparently secret cities built under the U.S. by the Bush administration, maybe it's maybe it's something we need to explore a little bit more. What happens to the rest of us that don't get to escape. Prompt 4. The painting is The Cradle by Berthe Morisot. Language is not my forte. The book prompt is a special bond between mother-daughter, mother-son, mother-child. And I picked Daddy's Gone A-Hunting by Penelope Mortimer. I finished this recently. I think I'll talk about it in my April wrap up, but this is Ruth Whiting and she has a daughter, Angela, and Ruth had Angela when she was quite young. She ended up getting married. We're in like 50s England, and we're kind of watching the psychological damage of being stuck in a 1950s traditional gender rolled post-war marriage. And we're watching Ruth sort of handle raising a daughter who is maybe making some of the same mistakes as she has made, and they have a very interesting bond. I don't know if this isn't like some strong emotional bond, but I really like how frank and honest their relationship is. I think that you can tell that they're all keeping secrets from each other, and that's natural, but the way that Angela is so comfortable going to her mother for support and asking her to help her with something that is frankly illegal and like embarrassing, I think says a lot about their relationship. And I really enjoyed that bond that they do have, because I'm sure there's not a lot of girls that would go to their mother and be comfortable going to their mother, telling them these things about them, that these things that they've done, what they've gotten themselves into, what they are looking to get themselves out of it. I don't want to ruin everything about the book, but I'm sure you can guess. But I really thought this was great. It's also just a really great psychological portrait of a woman stuck in a loveless marriage that's just sucking out everything from her and being stuck in these really just rigid gender roles. But this was great. I think I really like their bond. I think it says a lot without being like overly mushy. I think it says a lot how much she loves her daughter, and I think it says a lot how much her daughter trusts her mother. Prompt 5, the painting is The Swing by Pierre-Auguste Renoir. And this is a book that reminds you of your childhood. Now, there's lots of books I could have chosen for this. I picked two Frances Hodges Burnett books, and I have, I'm going to drop one of them, The Secret Garden, which this might be more of like a childhood movie, but we're going to go with the book version. I really like this little special edition I found at Ollie's, of all places, in Manassas, Virginia. And then I also have this beautiful LitJoy special edition of A Little Princess, which is probably a lot more accurate for a book that reminds me of childhood, because I wanted this book and this movie. I wanted this to be my life. I just want to wake up one day and realize that I'm actually quite wealthy, and all of this suffering that I have to go through was a mistake. And one day that I'll wake up from this nightmare. I won't, but do I need to explain what these are about, or do we all know? Do we all know? I think we all know. We've all been children, right? Okay. But I think these are fantastic choices for childhood. Heidi also is, but we're just gonna move on. These are more fun. Prompt 6 is American Gothic by Grant Wood. And this is the book prompt for this is a book set in a rural area. I had to steal this off of Jesus's nightstand because I'm making him read it. But any chance I get to plug Whose Names Are Unknown by Snorbab, I will. Fantastic. I will try to remember to link the discussion Naomi and I did about this over on the podcast, but we go into depth about the connections that this and Grapes of Wrath have, and Bab and Steinbeck have, and the whole lore behind this. And there is this, how much of this woman's work with the FSA was rolled into Steinbeck writing the Grapes of Wrath and all of that. But this is a story of the Dust Bowl. It is a much more human, realistic, straightforward story compared to the Grapes of Wrath, which is a lot more like allegorical and lyrical and has many layers and blah, 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 and is very good. It has lots of biblical references. This is a lot more like modern and straightforward. And I really like this story. I think I prefer it to the Grapes of Wrath, but I mean, we're talking about degrees, like just hair's breadth of preference. Like, I think that this is a lot more approachable for any reader. I think sometimes people look at the classics and Steinbeck and these big chunky books with lots of layers and they get intimidated. And I don't think they need to be intimidated. I think that's silly. I think you could read any book you want, but Whose Names Are Unknown, I think, is a really nice way to ease you into a Dust Bowl story and maybe get you to understand why that particular natural disaster created by human beings and all the things that went into it is important. I love this. Please read this. I'm just rambling now, but I love this book. Prompt 7. The painting is Self-Portrait of Artemisia Gentileschi. I said that wrong. And the book prompt is a book with a female protagonist ahead of her time, a pioneer. I don't know why I found this such a challenging one. I literally had to Google, like, what's a book with a... And then I was like, oh yeah, that's what this means. Sometimes prompts just throw me for a loop. I don't know why. Even when they're really straightforward, sometimes I'm just like, I think it's because I can't think of something and I know it should be like right there. But I have two for this because I couldn't really choose. I have a really obvious one, which is Jo March from Little Women. I think that, this entire book like passes the Bechdel test. I think this is a fantastic story about women being women and loving and caring and supporting and pushing boundaries in whatever way they can. I love it. I used to read this like around Christmas time every year, and I haven't read it in a year or so, so it might be time for a new read. But Jo March, definitely a pioneer, definitely ahead of her time. But then I also thought that Helen Graham from Tenant, Wildfeld Hall could fit that bill quite nicely. I mean, she goes out on her own. She stands up to her husband. She refuses to be in this marriage with this man that's just abusive and alcoholic. And she's willing to take the social punches that are going to come from her leaving him and living on her own and with her son. I think that this is actually quite a modern tale in terms of subject matter. And if you put this in like 1970s Ireland. I don't know, just picking something. I think it would read quite, I think you can put that plot there, and I think it would make sense. It's a very modern plot with a lot of like not so modern language and biblical references and et cetera, et cetera. But I do think that Helen Graham could definitely fit this bill. And then the final prompt 8, is to pick your own. So I think I would have flagged it, but I didn't. So I've picked for my painting The Broken Column by Frida Kahlo. I love this painting. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. I'm hoping I don't get in trouble for boobs. It's artistic boobs. Don't come at me, YouTube. And I picked a book with a woman, about a woman who perseveres against all odds, or a character that perseveres against all odds, someone who's really up against it and somehow still manages to pull themselves through, scarred, battered, bruised, but pulls themselves through. And I actually picked a memoir for this. I picked Down Below by Leonora Carrington. This is the story of her having a psychotic break when her lover Max Ernst gets arrested for the second time, this time by the Nazis, and taken away. And she is trying to flee France into Spain. When she gets to Spain, she has an absolute psychotic break. She ends up in a mental institution. And this is her recounting this time in her life where she's in this mental institution. And it's such a raw, honest look at what that kind of mental break looks like from the inside and how the world around her looked like. It is trippy and weird and like transcendental and strange. It's sad and upsetting because like give her these injections that make her have seizures, and like it's horrible. She finally gets out of the institution, and then her parents want to like ship her off to South Africa. She ends up escaping to somewhere in Portugal. She just like runs away, and she ends up in the Mexican embassy, and she has a friend there, thank God, who agrees to marry her and take her to Mexico to escape her family and to escape basically being shot away and ostracized for the rest of her life. And by being this like daring woman, she ends up becoming a very well-known artist in Mexico. She has some absolutely stunning surrealist paintings. She was a prominent figure in the surrealist movement prior to the war, and she writes a few books. She writes mostly short stories, I think. I've read The Hearing Trumpet, which is a novel, and then this, and then I do have a collection of her short stories as well to get through. But I just really love her story, and I love her. I mean, she's just such an interesting person, and her work is beautiful and intricate, and yeah. So I think this definitely fits that bill of somebody who perseveres against all odds. She had so many ways of being, so many moments where she could have been crushed by everything, and she doesn't. She keeps going. She finds a way. And yeah, fantastic. And then, of course, prompt 9 is to tag a bunch of people. So just off the top of my head, I have a couple people written down. Grant loves books. Of course, my good friend Kieran, your favorite booktuber. Jim's books, reading, and stuff. And my friend Tony Lockster reads. I'm going to tag you all below because I think you would enjoy this tag. So that's that. Am I warmed up? I don't know, but we're gonna go with it. Have I gotten the filming juices flowing? We'll see. I don't know what that is. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Bye.